Hello, dear friend, and welcome. This is Dreamy Nights, where we share soft, gentle stories to help you relax, unwind, and drift peacefully into sleep. I'm so glad you're here. Tonight's story is called The Midnight Garden. It's a tale of calm rituals, soft lantern light, and the gentle care of flowers glowing beneath the silver wash of the moon. Before we begin, I invite you to settle in. Find a position that feels comfortable, whether lying back in your bed or resting on a cozy couch with the blanket tucked around you. Allow your body to soften into the support beneath you. You don't have to hold anything up now. The night is here to hold you. Take one easy breath in and then slowly release it. Notice the simple comfort of that rhythm. The way air enters, the way it leaves, like waves lapping softly against the shore, or leaves stirring in the midnight breeze. You are safe. You are cared for. And this time is only for you. So if you feel your mind wandering, that's perfectly all right. Just let the words wash gently over you, like listening to a stream flowing past a garden wall. And now, let us begin our story. It is midnight. The hour when the world is hushed and softened, when sounds turn velvety and shadows deepen into gentle shapes. In a hidden corner of the world, there lies a walled garden. Its stone walls are smooth with age, their surfaces glimmering faintly under the pale light of the moon. The gate creaks open softly, not with alarm, but with a welcoming sigh, as though the garden itself recognizes the one who enters. Her name is Mara. Mara moves quietly, with the measured grace of someone who belongs to this place. She carries a small lantern in one hand, its glow golden and low, sending circles of light across the pathway of smooth stone beneath her bare feet. Each step feels cool and grounding, the stone still holding a trace of evening's warmth from the sun, now cooled by night air. Around her, the garden stirs. Leaves whisper softly as a breeze passes through. Petals glisten with tiny beads of dew, catching fragments of moonlight, so they appear like silver jewels laid out upon the dark green canvas of the plants. The faint fragrance of lavender rises as Mara brushes by, mingled with the delicate sweetness of jasmine that blooms only at night. The air feels both fresh and comforting, touched by the coolness of midnight, yet warmed by the presence of earth and living things. Mara pauses. She lifts her lantern slightly, tilting her head with a quiet smile. She has always felt that this garden breathes with her, that its rhythm and hers are gently entwined. She sets the lantern on a low stone wall and unclasps a clay cup she has brought with her. Steam drifts upward. Herbal tea steeped with calming chamomile and a hint of lemon balm. Its warmth gathers in her palms, seeping into her fingers as she takes a slow sip. The taste is mellow like honey without sweetness, a flavor that belongs to quiet hours and the slowing of time. She breathes deeply, letting the aroma mingle with the garden's perfumes, and then sets the cup beside the lantern. Mara begins her nightly ritual. She bends gracefully to touch a flower near the pathway, a pale white bloom that opens only when the stars are out. Its petals are silky beneath her fingertips, cool with the touch of dew. She lingers a moment, appreciating the delicate beauty of its form, the way it leans slightly toward the lantern's glow. From nearby, the fountain murmurs. It is small and simple, a basin of carved stone with water that slips gently from one tear to another, never hurried. The sound is like whispers layered upon whispers, soothing in its constancy. Mara picks up a clay jug that rests by the fountain and fills it carefully. She enjoys the weight of it in her hands, the way the cool ceramic rests against her skin. She pours a little water into the soil near the flower, watching how the earth darkens, how the leaves respond with a subtle, grateful tremble. These are tiny things, unnoticed by most. But to Mara, they are a language, a conversation between gardener and garden. She moves slowly along the path, repeating the ritual with each cluster of plants, pouring a small measure of water, brushing her fingers across the leaves, breathing in their scents, listening to the night's chorus of crickets and the occasional call of an owl. The lantern light sways gently, catching glimmers of dew. Moonlight rests like silver lace upon the stones. Each detail folds into the other, weaving a tapestry of calm. Mara pauses once more, placing the jug back near the fountain. She She takes her cup of tea again and finds a bench beneath an archway of climbing roses. Their blossoms are faint in the dark, but their perfume lingers, subtle, yet steady, like a promise. She sits down, her body sinking into the wooden seat. The bench has been here for many years, and its wood has softened with time. It creaks faintly as she leans back, not unpleasantly, but like an old friend adjusting to her weight. From here she can see nearly the whole garden. Lanterns glow at intervals, their flames steady, but occasionally flickering as the breeze shifts. Beyond the walls, the sky opens wide, a vast sea of indigo scattered with stars. One star twinkles more brightly than the rest, catching Mara's eye. She lifts her gaze to it and lets her thoughts drift, not with urgency, but with ease. She wonders how many nights this same star has shone upon these blossoms, how many seasons it has seen the garden pass through. She reflects on how each bloom follows its own quiet rhythm, unhurried, never competing, never doubting. Each simply unfolding in its own time. The thought fills her with peace. She smiles softly, sipping the last of her tea. As the night deepens, the garden grows even quieter. The crickets soften their song. The breeze slows, leaving the lantern flames more still. Mara closes her eyes for a moment, listening. She can hear her own breath mingling with the fountain's trickle. She can feel her heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of the night. The world outside may move swiftly, but here there is only the slow, nurturing passage of time. Mara lingers on the wooden bench for a while, gazing quietly across the garden. Her eyes travel slowly, as though each corner of this sanctuary deserves its own moment of attention. The lanterns flicker gently, creating little pools of golden light that touch the leaves and then fade back into silver shadow. It is like watching a dance between moon and flame. Each step graceful, unhurried, endlessly repeating. In the near distance, she notices the shimmer of dew collecting along the petals of a tall lily. Each drop bends the petal ever so slightly, and when the breeze stirs, the dew glints like 1,000 tiny mirrors catching the moonlight. It is a sight she has come to love, the garden wearing its jewels of water, delicate and fleeting, yet dazzling in their quiet way. She rises slowly from the bench, placing her empty clay cup on the stone ledge beside her. Her lantern in hand again, Mara follows the path toward the far corner of the garden, where a trellis rises up against the wall. Along its wooden beams, vines weave and curl, climbing eagerly as though reaching for the stars above. Tiny blossoms peek between the leaves, white with a hint of pale pink, glowing faintly like scattered stardust. Mara holds the lantern near, and the blossoms seem to lean into the light, glowing more brightly for a moment. She bends closer, admiring the fine details, the curve of each petal, the fine ridges along the leaves, the way shadows gather delicately in their folds. She breathes in, noting the faint sweetness in the air, barely there, as if the flowers are shy about revealing their perfume all at once. She whispers softly, almost to herself, "You are enough, just as you are." It is not something she says aloud often, but the words feel natural here in this space where nothing strives, nothing rushes, nothing pretends to be more than it is. From the trellis, the path leads toward a circular patch of grass, neatly kept and surrounded by low stone edging. In its center, a sundial rests. Though the hour is long past for its use, Mara enjoys visiting it at night when the shadow is absent and only the pale gleam of moonlight touches its surface. She approaches it now, her lantern glow brushing across the engraved numbers. The stone is cool beneath her fingertips as she traces the carvings, softened by time, yet still clear. She reflects briefly on how the sundial measures the day, yet here in the stillness of nighttime feels like it has loosened its hold. Minutes and hours do not matter. Only the unfolding of one gentle moment into the next. Mara sets her lantern on the edge of the sundial's stone base and sits cross-legged in the grass. The blades bend softly beneath her, cushioning her body, cool against her ankles. She tilts her head back, looking skyward. The stars are astonishing tonight. So many gathered above, sparkling in constellations both familiar and strange. One cluster forms a soft curve like a handful of diamonds scattered across velvet. Another stretches like a gentle river of light, a reminder of how vast the universe is, and yet how intimately it can be felt in one quiet gaze. She stays like this for a while, her eyes gently scanning the heavens, breathing evenly. There is no urge to name the stars, no need to catalog or classify them. She allows them to be simply what they are: distant lights, each shining in its own time, each adding to the beauty of the whole. Her vision blurs slightly, the way it does when one looks at something long enough. Stars seem to soften into glowing orbs, the sky itself into a wash of silver blue. Her lantern's glow blurs too, a warm halo at the edge of her sight. It feels dreamlike, as if the garden and sky are melting into one seamless tapestry of light. After some time, Mara rises again, brushing her hands gently over her skirt, feeling the fine blades of grass fall away. She retrieves the lantern and continues along a narrow path that curves toward the east wall. Here, a small alcove is built into the stone, lined with shelves that hold clay pots of herbs. Mara leans close to examine them. She keeps lavender, rosemary, mint, and thyme here, though at this hour only a faint outline of their forms can be seen. She lights another lantern on the alcove's shelf, adding a new glow to the night. Shadows fall away, and the herbs reveal themselves tender leaves, glistening faintly stalks, arching gracefully upward, each plant contained yet abundant. She reaches toward the lavender, brushing her fingers over the stems. Tiny buds release a stronger fragrance when touched, their soothing notes rising in the cool air. She inhales deeply, letting it calm her. The rosemary follows sharper and more vivid, a reminder of morning light even in this midnight hour. Mint, cool and lively. Thyme, earthy and grounding. The sight of these herbs brings Mara a sense of balance. Each has its own character, its own place in the garden's rhythm. None overwhelms the other. They coexist in harmony, sharing space, sharing soil, sharing time. She clips a small sprig of lavender and sets it carefully on the stone shelf, smiling at the way its pale purple blossoms catch the lantern's glow. Then she takes another sip of tea from her refilled cup, savoring how the lavender scent lingers in the air as she swallows the warm, mellow liquid. Sight and taste blend into one gentle harmony. The night grows stiller. The breeze has quieted so much that the lantern flames now stand tall and steady, glowing like miniature suns against the darkness. The fountain continues its trickle, the only constant movement besides Mara's own steps. She decides to tend to the lanterns themselves. One by one, she walks the paths, pausing at each lantern to adjust its wick, to straighten its frame, or simply to watch the way the light spills across the stones. It is a slow ritual, almost like greeting friends scattered throughout the garden. Each flame seems to greet her back, bowing slightly. When the wick is touched, then rising again with renewed strength. When all are adjusted, the garden feels brighter, yet still hushed. Golden light mingles with silver moonlight, each enhancing the other. Mara stands at the center of the garden for a moment, lantern in her hand, surrounded by dozens of little flames. She turns slowly, taking in the view. It feels almost like a gathering, a quiet celebration without sound, where light itself is the guest of honor. Her eyes rest on the fountain again, the way the lantern light shimmers across the water's surface, creating ripples of gold that overlap with the moon's silver reflection. It is a sight she could watch endlessly. Mara makes her way back toward the bench, carrying the clipped sprig of lavender. She places it in her clay cup, letting the steam from her tea draw out more of its fragrance. The sight of the purple flowers resting in golden light fills her with ease. She leans back once more, the wooden bench supporting her fully. Her eyes drift across the lanterns, the stars, the blossoms, the fountain. Each detail offers something new to notice, yet none demands attention. Together, they form a gentle whole, a world designed for rest. She thinks of how sight itself is a gift, the ability to witness these details, to let them enter her quietly, shaping her thoughts toward peace. It is not about seeing everything clearly or sharply. Sometimes she reflects the soft blur of the night, offers its own kind of clarity. A reminder that not everything must be precise to be beautiful. That sometimes gentleness is enough. Her gaze softens, her eyelids growing heavier as she continues to watch. The lanterns sway faintly once more, as if echoing her own slowing rhythm. The garden glows steady and safe, a sanctuary beneath the midnight sky. The night has grown deeper, though. In the garden, it feels as though time has slowed to a tender stillness. Mara rests quietly on the bench, for a little longer, hands cupped around her clay mug, the sprig of lavender resting inside. The steam has lessened, but the cup still radiates warmth. She curls her fingers around its curved surface, savoring how it fits neatly into her palms. It feels like holding a small hearth of comfort, one that travels with her as she moves. When she finishes her tea, she sets the cup down beside her. She stands slowly, stretching her arms and letting her fingers extend outward as though brushing through the air itself. The night greets her with coolness, a gentle contrast to the warmth of her cup. She wiggles her fingers, noticing how the sensation of air slipping between them brings a childlike joy. She decides to walk barefoot across the grass again. Each step presses into the soft blades, cool and damp with dew. The sensation grounds her, the tickle of the grass against her soles, the moist coolness that clings briefly before fading, the subtle firmness of the earth beneath it all. She walks in a slow circle, her lantern swaying at her side, casting a low glow onto the grass, making it glimmer like emerald strands woven with silver. At the edge of the lawn, a patch of moss waits beneath an old oak tree. Mara steps carefully onto it. Instantly, the sensation shifts. The moss is cushiony, almost like a velvet carpet spread by nature's hand. She sinks slightly with each step, enjoying the gentle give beneath her feet. She presses her toes into it, marveling at how springy and cool it feels, how it seems to mold itself around her steps before returning to its soft, even surface. She kneels down and runs her fingers over the moss. The texture is unlike anything else, silky, yet thick, delicate, yet resilient. She lets her fingertips wander across its uneven surface, pausing at tiny ridges and hollows, then smoothing along broader stretches. She imagines it as the garden's quiet blanket, always ready to cradle whoever rests upon it. She lowers herself further, sitting cross-legged on the moss. The dampness is faint, not unpleasant, only enough to remind her that the earth is alive and breathing. She presses her palms against the ground, then brings them up to her cheeks, enjoying the lingering coolness. It is refreshing, as though the moss itself has passed along a message of rest. Nearby, a low wooden table stands beneath the oak. Mara often keeps simple tools here: a small brush, a soft cloth, a shallow bowl. She reaches for the cloth now. It is made of worn cotton, thin from many uses, but that is what makes it so tender against the skin. She folds it neatly, dips a corner into the fountain's water, and wrings it gently. The cloth is now cool and damp. She wipes her hands with it, slowly savoring how it glides over her skin. The sensation is soothing, almost ceremonial. She drapes it across her wrists, letting the moisture sink in. A shiver of refreshment travels through her arms, not startling, but enlivening, like the kiss of evening air after a warm day. She places the cloth aside and dips her hands directly into the fountain's basin. The water is cool, flowing over her fingers like silk ribbons. She swirls them gently, watching ripples spread across the surface, carrying the lantern's golden glow outward in concentric waves. She cups her hands, lifts a small pool of water, and lets it trickle slowly back into the basin. The touch of it against her skin is feather-light, a caress that lingers even after the drops are gone. As she dries her hands, Mara looks toward the far side of the garden. A hammock hangs between two sturdy posts. They're woven of soft, pale rope. It sways faintly as though beckoning her. She walks toward it, her bare feet whispering across stone, then grass, then stone again. Each surface offers a new feeling beneath her soul's firm, pliant grounding. She places her lantern on a small stand nearby and eases herself onto the hammock. The ropes shift slightly, cradling her body. She reclines carefully, stretching out until the hammock holds her, fully swaying gently under her weight. The sensation is one of floating, as though the garden itself has lifted her up and is carrying her in its arms. She runs her fingers along the ropes at her sides. They are smooth in some places, rougher in others, worn by time and softened by touch. The hammock creaks faintly, not in protest, but in rhythm with its gentle motion. Mara closes her eyes for a moment, feeling the swing's slight arc forward, then back, like a lullaby carried in movement. She places one hand against her chest, the other resting lightly over her stomach. The rise and fall of her breath meets the hammock's rhythm, and soon the two are indistinguishable. She feels as though she has joined the garden's larger breath, inhaling and exhaling in perfect harmony with its midnight calm. After a while, Mara opens her eyes again. The hammock faces a cluster of tall grasses near the wall. Their stalks sway faintly, the feathery tops brushing against one another with a soft, shushing sound. She slips out of the hammock and walks toward them, running her fingers along the tips. They bend and spring back, gently tickling her hands. She laughs softly, a sound that mingles with the whisper of the grasses, as though the plants themselves are delighted at her touch. She leans down to gather a handful of stalks, not to cut them, but to feel the bundle in her grip. The stems are slender yet firm, cool to the touch. The feathery tops brush against her arm, light as drifting clouds. She releases them slowly, watching them sway back into place, like dancers returning to their positions after a bow. Another texture awaits at the garden's edge, smooth pebbles arranged in a small circle. Mara kneels down and lets her fingers roam over them. Some are rounded and glossy, others slightly rough. She picks one up and rolls it between her palms, appreciating its cool weight. She presses it to her cheek, then to her forehead, enjoying the grounding steadiness of stone. She sets it back down with care, as though returning it to its family. She lies back briefly, her head resting against the circle of pebbles. Though firm, they provide an unexpected comfort. The different shapes cradle her gently, reminding her that rest can be found in many forms, not only in softness, but also in the supportive strength of earth and stone. Mara eventually returns to the fountain. She dips the cloth once more, wrings it lightly, and drapes it across the back of her neck. The coolness settles over her skin, melting into the warmth of her body. She closes her eyes, taking in the sensation with a grateful sigh. She reflects in this moment that life itself is often felt through touch. The pressure of soil beneath fingers planting seeds. The embrace of a blanket around tired shoulders. The way a hand brushes another in passing. These are small things, yet they anchor her more firmly in the present than any thought could. Her hand returns to the moss, briefly caressing it once more before she rises. She feels refreshed, grounded, deeply alive in this sanctuary of gentle textures. The lanterns continue their soft glow, the stars their shimmering watch. Mara looks around the garden and feels an immense gratitude, not for anything dramatic or grand, but for the way each surface, each object, each plant offers its own kind of comfort. The garden, she realizes, speaks most clearly through touch, through the gentle caress of breeze, the cushion of moss, the firmness of stone, the embrace of rope, all of it reminding her, you are supported, you are held, you are enough. She takes one more slow walk across the grass, enjoying the dew between her toes before returning to her bench. The night is deep and safe. She closes her eyes, her hands folded in her lap, and allows the sensations to linger long after they fade. The midnight garden holds its breath as though pausing to listen. Mara sits quietly on the wooden bench, her body still warm from the gentle sway of the hammock, her skin cooled by the lingering touch of the damp cloth across her neck. For a few long moments, she simply breathes. Each inhale carries a symphony of fragrances layered like a soft quilt. She notices first the lavender, still the strongest in the air, faint but constant, rising from the sprig resting in her clay cup. It mingles with the sweetness of the jasmine blossoms, those delicate night bloomers that release their perfume only after dark. Together, they weave a fragrance that is at once soothing and mysterious, both tender and deep. Beyond them, subtler notes drift in. The earthy scent of damp moss under the oak tree, rich and grounding. The resinous whisper of rosemary, sharper at the edges, but softened by the cool night. Even the faint trace of dew itself, carrying the scent of clean stone and fresh grass. Mara tilts her head back slightly and inhales, letting these scents settle into her chest. Each one tells a story she thinks of growth, of patience, of time unfolding without hurry. She rises, lantern in hand, and walks toward the alcove of herbs once more. Their scents grow stronger as she approaches, as though they recognize her return. She leans close to the rosemary, first brushing the tip of her finger along its needle-like leaves. The fragrance leaps to meet her vivid and sharp, awakening her senses. She smiles softly, remembering how rosemary often reminds her of morning kitchens, of bread baking, of sunshine. And yet, here at midnight, it feels entirely new, like a memory dressed in moonlight. Next, she turns to the mint. She pinches a leaf gently between her fingers and inhales. The freshness rushes into her cool and lively, almost like water springing up from hidden roots. She lets out a slow exhale, as though mint itself has given her lungs new air. The thyme is more subdued, its scent earthy and low, like a steady hum beneath the higher notes of lavender and mint. She breathes it in, feeling steadied, anchored in the garden's rhythm. Mara does not pick much, just a leaf of mint, a sprig of rosemary. She tucks them carefully into her pocket to carry their fragrance with her as she wanders. She decides to check the climbing roses along the archway. Though most roses rest their fragrance during the day, here in the garden, some still release faint notes into the night air. She leans close to one blossom, pale and half open, and inhales. The scent is quiet, almost shy, but undeniably sweet. It lingers on her lips after she pulls back like a delicate kiss. Mara brushes her fingers over the petals, then brings them to her nose. The faint perfume clings to her skin, reminding her that even in softness, roses have a presence that endures. She reflects that scent has a way of carrying memories far more swiftly than thought. A single fragrance can bring back entire seasons, entire days. The lavender of summer afternoons, the mint of cool streams, the rose of letters pressed with petals. She does not need to name them aloud, only to allow them to pass gently through her, as if carried by the garden's breeze. The fountain calls to her again, its water ever in motion. She kneels beside it, dipping her hands briefly. As the droplets fall, the scent of water rises, subtle mineral, unmistakable. It mingles with the nearby moss, creating an aroma that feels like the very essence of earth. She lowers her face closer to the surface, inhaling the faint freshness, imagining how each drop has passed through stone, soil, and air before arriving here. She takes the sprig of mint from her pocket and crushes it gently between her fingers. The fragrance bursts out cool and bright, blending with the fountain's own freshness. She holds her fingers near her nose and breathes deeply. It feels like inhaling pure calm. She places the crushed mint into the fountain, watching it float briefly before settling near the stone edge. Its fragrance continues to drift subtle but lingering, adding to the garden's midnight bouquet. From the fountain, Mara follows the path toward a shaded corner where night phlox blooms. These small star-shaped flowers are modest in appearance, but at night they release one of the sweetest fragrances in the garden. As she nears, the air grows thicker with their perfume, a blend of honey and vanilla, delicate yet irresistible. She bends, low lantern light grazing their blossoms, and inhales deeply. The scent wraps around her like a shawl, soft, warm, and comforting. She closes her eyes, allowing herself to be fully enveloped. In this moment, she feels almost as though the flowers are cradling her in invisible arms. Mara thinks of how fragrances linger differently than sights or sounds. They stay in the air, hovering, clinging gently to fabric, hair, skin. They weave themselves into the unseen layers of memory, waiting quietly until they are called forth again. Satisfied, she moves slowly back toward the bench. Along the way, she notices how the entire garden has grown fragrant, as though the plants have conspired to create a tapestry of scents just for her. The lavender, the jasmine, the rosemary, the mint, the moss, the roses, the phlox, all blending into a harmony that cannot be separated. She settles once more onto the wooden bench, placing her lantern at her feet. She exhales long and slow. The fragrances around her seem to deepen with the night. She reflects on how scent is invisible, intangible, and yet so deeply felt. It teaches her that not all beauty must be seen. Some beauty is meant to be breathed in, carried silently, never fully grasped, but always remembered. Mara leans back, resting her head against the bench, eyes half closed. She breathes in rhythm, inhaling the night, exhaling gratitude. Each breath feels like a gift, an exchange between herself and the garden. She gives her presence. The garden gives her fragrance. In the stillness, she whispers softly to herself, "This is enough." The words drift into the scented air and dissolve, becoming part of the garden's midnight song. The night deepens further, though within the walled garden time feels softer than ever. Mara remains seated on the wooden bench for a few quiet breaths, still surrounded by the mingling perfumes of lavender, mint, and phlox. Then she rises, her lantern in hand, and begins walking slowly toward the alcove, where her small wooden table rests beneath the oak. On the table sits a shallow tray with simple comforts she has prepared earlier. A small earthen teapot, still faintly warm to the touch, waits beside two clay cups. A dish holds slices of honeycomb, golden and sticky. Nearby, a small plate carries dried figs, apricots and almonds, humble offerings for the midnight hour. Mara smiles softly as she notices them, remembering how she had laid them out earlier in the evening, knowing she would enjoy them now. She sets her lantern down, then lowers herself onto the low stool tucked beside the table. She begins with the tea, lifting the pot by its curved handle. She feels the faint warmth still held in the clay. She pours slowly into her cup, listening to the gentle trickle. Steam rises, carrying the calming fragrance of chamomile and lemon balm, now deepened by the sprig of lavender she added earlier. She lifts the cup carefully, feeling its weight and warmth in her hand. She inhales first, letting the steam brush across her face. Then she takes a sip. The flavor is mellow, round with soft herbal notes that feel both soothing and alive. The hint of lavender adds a floral echo like moonlight captured in taste. The liquid travels down her throat, spreading warmth into her chest. She pauses after the first sip, letting her tongue linger in its memory. The faint sweetness of the herbs, the earthy undertone of the clay vessel, the whisper of lemon that brightens the blend. Each note is delicate, but together they form a symphony of calm. Next, Mara reaches for the dish of honeycomb. She pinches a small piece between her fingers, watching how it glistens under lantern light. The golden wax is soft, and as she brings it to her lips, it yields easily. A rush of sweetness fills her mouth, thick, golden, pure. It coats her tongue like liquid sunlight, lingering with a richness that feels almost eternal. She chews slowly, the wax softening until it dissolves, leaving only sweetness behind. She swallows, and the flavor seems to settle into her very being, like warmth woven into her body from within. She reflects quietly how remarkable it is that such sweetness comes from something simple as bees gathering nectar day after day. There is no rush, no striving, only small, steady work transformed into something golden and eternal. Beside the honeycomb rests the plate of figs and apricots. Mara chooses a dried fig first. She feels its wrinkled skin beneath her fingertips, tender yet firm. She bites gently, and the fig yields, releasing its tiny seeds and rich, almost caramel-like flavor. The texture is soft, chewy, with little bursts of crunch. She closes her eyes as she savors it. The sweetness mellow and deep, more grounded than the honey, like the memory of summer captured in fruit. Then she selects an apricot. Its orange flesh glows faintly in the lantern's glow, and as she bites, the tartness brightens her mouth, followed quickly by a gentle sweetness. It is like tasting sunlight filtered through leaves, a balance of bright and soft, sharp and tender. Finally, she picks up a few almonds. She rolls them in her palm, enjoying their smoothness, then places them one by one on her tongue. The flavor is simple, nutty grounding. The crunch satisfies a reminder of the strength hidden in small, humble things. Mara takes another sip of tea, letting the herbal warmth wash gently through the flavors of honey and fruit. She notices how each taste lingers, how they layer themselves without competing. Honey's golden richness, figs' mellow depth, apricots' brightness, almonds' steadiness, all woven together by the quiet tea. She leans back slightly on the stool, closing her eyes as she allows the aftertastes to fade slowly. Her tongue feels softened, her mouth still tingling faintly from apricot tartness, her body gently warmed. She reflects quietly on the nature of taste, how it is fleeting, vanishing with each swallow, yet leaving memory behind. How a single sip or bite can change her entire state, reminding her of seasons past, of sunlit days, of long harvests. Taste, she thinks, is not only about nourishment, it is also about gratitude, the simple joy of savoring what is given. She does not need abundance. She does not need feasts. Just a sip of warm tea, a bite of fruit, a touch of honey is enough. It is a lesson the garden itself whispers in every every flavor that small things savored fully are more than enough. When she finishes, Mara tidies the small table gently. She covers the tray, sets the teapot aside, and wipes her fingers on a soft cloth. The honey still lingers faintly on her lips, and she presses them together, enjoying its gentle stickiness. She takes her lantern once more and begins to walk slowly through the garden again, carrying the tastes with her. The herbs in her pocket still release faint notes of rosemary and mint, mingling with the sweetness that lingers on her tongue. Each breath feels like another sip, another bite, another gift. She wanders toward the rose arch again, pausing beneath it. She leans down and brushes her lips against the petal of a half-open blossom, smiling at the faint sweetness left behind, not in flavor exactly, but in the way the scent and touch blend, almost as if she has tasted the rose itself. She thinks of how every sense is connected, how fragrance can become flavor, how sight can sweeten taste, how touch can deepen it. The honey tasted richer beneath lantern light. The apricot glowed brighter because the moon watched overhead. The tea was more calming because she sipped it while hearing the fountains trickle. Nothing is separate. All is part of the same gentle whole. The garden seems to respond to her reflections. The breeze stirs faintly, carrying with it a freshness that reminds her of mint. The fountain's trickle seems sweeter, as if echoing honey. Even the stars above seem brighter, like figs glistening in a night sky of velvet. She walks toward the fountain and takes another sip from her cup, which she has refilled with the last of the tea. She drinks more slowly now, not out of necessity, but to prolong the moment. Each swallow is a step closer to stillness, to sleep. When her cup is finally empty, she rinses it carefully in the fountain's basin, running her fingers along its rim as though to thank it for holding her warmth. She sets it aside and touches the water once more, then brings her damp fingers to her lips. The faint taste of clean stone and fresh water lingers there, simple and pure. She smiles softly. Even water, she realizes, carries its own kind of sweetness. Not like honey or fruit, but the sweetness of clarity, of refreshment, of enoughness. She returns at last to the wooden bench, carrying nothing but her lantern. She sits, folding her hands in her lap. The lingering tastes still circle her tongue and memory. The herbal tea, the honeycomb, the dried fruit, the almonds, all of them simple, all of them sufficient. Together, they remind her of the lesson she has carried with her tonight, that enough is already here. Her body feels heavier now, her eyelids lower. She leans back, resting fully against the bench. Around her, the fragrances continue to drift. The lanterns continue to glow. The fountain continues to whisper, and the tastes remain woven into her body's memory. She exhales softly, whispering into the night, "This is abundance. This is enough." The stillness of the midnight garden feels deeper now, as though each corner has drawn a little closer to sleep. Mara sits quietly on the wooden bench, her lantern at her feet, her body softened by the warmth of tea and the sweetness of honey. Her ears begin to tune themselves gently, as though the garden itself is inviting her to listen. The first sound she notices is the fountain. Its trickle is constant, patient, a quiet thread that runs through every moment. She leans slightly forward, closing her eyes, and allows it to fill her awareness. The water does not rush. It falls with calm, rhythmic drops, like whispered words, repeating the same simple reassurance. Over and over, you are safe. You are safe. The sound blends with her own breath. Inhale, exhale, like water spilling and settling. She smiles softly at the thought how her body has its own fountain, its own stream of rhythm that never hurries, never falters. Then she notices the crickets. Their song is steady, a chorus woven into the darkness. They chirp in patterns, some near, some far, creating a layered harmony that feels endless, as though the night itself is singing softly to itself. The sound is neither loud nor intrusive. It is background, like a lullaby hummed by unseen hands. An owl calls in the distance. Its low note rises and falls, once then fades into silence. Mara tilts her head, smiling, always pleased to hear the owl's gentle voice. It feels like a greeting, like an old friend reminding her that she is not alone in this sanctuary. The wind stirs faintly, brushing through the tall grasses near the wall. Their feathery tops rub together, making a soft shh sound, like pages being turned in a giant book. Mara rises and walks closer to them, lantern in hand. She stands among the grasses, listening closely. The sound grows richer here, every stalk joining the chorus. The breeze is not strong, it barely moves her hair, but it is enough to set the grasses whispering a secret language spoken only at night. She reaches out her hand, letting the stalks brush against her fingers. The sound and touch mingle, making her smile. She wonders if perhaps the grasses are telling her their dreams, each one sharing a story of how it sways in daylight, how it stretches toward the sun. Mara decides to follow the soundscape more closely. She walks toward the fountain, sits beside it, and lowers her lantern to the ground. Closing her eyes, she listens. Now she hears the water more clearly, the gurgle as it falls, the ripple as it spreads across the basin, the faint clink of droplets striking stone. She realizes how many layers exist within one simple sound, each note adding to the whole. She dips her fingers lightly into the water, stirring it. The ripples add a new note, a faint slosh that joins the fountain's steady trickle. She withdraws her hand and lets the fountain return to its natural rhythm, pleased by how even a tiny motion can create its own brief music. She leans back on her palms, closing her eyes fully now. Other sounds begin to rise at the edges of her awareness. The faint creak of her bench when she shifts, the whisper of her lantern's flame as it flickers in the breeze, the rustle of her own clothing as she exhales and relaxes. It occurs to her that the garden is never silent. Even in stillness it sings. The sound may be subtle, but it is constant. A chorus of crickets, the hymn of water, the murmur of grasses, the occasional punctuation of the owl's call. She reflects on how sound carries presence. Even without sight, she knows the garden is alive around her because of what she hears. Sound is proof of companionship of life, unfolding all at once. Mara rises again, carrying her lantern along the path to the trellis. The vines there creak faintly in the breeze, rubbing against the wood. The sound is low, gentle, almost like breathing. She leans close, placing her ear near one stalk, and smiles at how alive it feels, not only in sight, but in sound. She lingers for a while, listening to the subtle creaks and rustles. The vines seem to shift, to murmur in their own language of wood and leaf. She reflects that everything, even what seems still, has a voice if one listens closely enough. The hammock sways nearby and Mara moves toward it. She places her lantern on the stand and lowers herself into its woven ropes. As it adjusts to her weight, the hammock releases a faint groan, then a creak as it swings. The sound is soft, rhythmic, perfectly matched to its gentle motion. She closes her eyes, allowing the creak to lull her back and forth like the rise and fall of a lullaby. Her own breath joins the sound, each inhale and exhale mingling with the hammock's groan. For a while, she simply rests, ears tuned only to this private symphony, hammock breath fountain crickets, all blending into one. After some time, she rises again. She wants to hear the night from another perspective. Carrying her lantern, she walks toward the moss patch under the oak tree. Kneeling, she lowers her ear close to the ground. To most, the earth would seem silent. But Mara, practiced in listening, hears faint notes, the shuffle of insects, the whisper of roots moving beneath the soil, the gentle sigh of earth itself. It is subtle but real. She smiles softly, pressing her palm against the moss as if to say, "Thank you." A breeze stirs again, carrying with it a distant sound from beyond the garden wall. The faint rush of a stream, or perhaps the sigh of trees swaying far away. Mara listens closely, letting her imagination travel beyond the walls, while her body remains safe within them. The sound reminds her that the world is vast, yet she is held in this small corner of peace. She reflects that sound connects her both inward and outward. Inward to her own breath and heartbeat. Outward to the chorus of the world fountain cricket's wind owl. Together, they weave a fabric of belonging. Returning to her bench, Mara places her lantern beside her and rests once more. She leans her head back, eyes closed, letting her ears take in everything without effort. Sounds overlap, fade, return. Each one feels like a friend keeping watch through the night. She whispers softly, almost inaudibly, "Every sound is kindness. Every sound is enough." The night does not answer in words, but the crickets continue. The fountain flows. The grasses whisper. The owl calls once again. And in their song, she feels her own heart settle further into rest. The night sky has deepened into its quietest shade of blue, nearly black, though never heavy. It is soft like velvet spread across the heavens. Mara remains seated on the bench for a moment longer, listening to the chorus of night. Then she opens her eyes slowly, as though unveiling a painting. Sight returns gently, and what she sees fills her with quiet wonder. The lanterns are still glowing their flames, steady in the calm air. Their light has grown rounder, gentler, casting halos of amber across stone paths and the fountain's ripples. Each lantern looks like a small sun, steady and kind, watching over the garden. She notices how their halos overlap, one glow blending into another, until the entire garden feels like a constellation drawn on earth. She lifts her gaze higher. The moon has drifted further across the sky, now resting above the trellis. Its light paints the blossoms in silver white, making them appear almost translucent. The trellis itself casts long, slender shadows across the pathway. Each shadow is soft-edged, blending into the stone like brush strokes from a delicate hand. Mara stands and begins to walk, moving slowly along the pathway. She allows her eyes to linger on details she might have missed earlier. She notices the way dew has gathered along the edges of rose petals, tiny beads catching both lantern and moonlight, sparkling like gems strung together. Some of the drops quiver faintly, trembling in place, as though waiting to fall. She steps onto the grass, and the sight delights her. Each blade gleams, faintly bent beneath its own droplet of dew. Her lantern light reveals them as glittering threads woven together into a luminous carpet. She bends down, lowering the lantern close to the ground, and smiles at the reflection of stars scattered not only in the sky above, but also here, mirrored in dew across the earth. The realization warms her. The garden carries its own constellations. The heavens are reflected at her feet. She moves toward the fountain again. By lantern light, the water looks golden where it spills. By moonlight, it is silver. The two lights blend on its surface, rippling together, creating patterns that never repeat. She kneels down, entranced by the play of light. It reminds her of woven silk shifting constantly, yet always whole. She dips her finger into the water. Tiny circles ripple outward, distorting the lantern's reflection, scattering it into fragments that shimmer and dance. She watches until the surface grows calm again, then lifts her finger, smiling at how one simple touch can change the entire pattern of light, if only for a moment. Beyond the fountain, the hammock waits. She approaches it once more, lantern in hand, and eases herself into it. As the ropes cradle her, she turns her gaze upward. From this angle, the stars look even closer, as though they are leaning down to meet her. She traces them slowly, not naming them, only noticing. One bright star near the horizon twinkles with hints of red and blue, while another gleams pure white. Between them, countless smaller lights scatter like dust. She feels as though she is floating not only in the hammock, but also in the sky itself. The ropes blur at the edges of her vision, and the stars seem to sway gently with her. The sight lulls her into deeper quiet. She reflects softly that sight is not only for clarity, but also for wonder. That to look is sometimes to dream. Her eyes soften, and she lets them blur intentionally until the stars become glowing orbs, until the lantern light becomes halos, until the entire garden is wrapped in softness. After a while, she leaves the hammock and returns to the trellis. She holds her lantern near the vines again, watching how the blossoms seem to awaken beneath the glow. Their petals, pale pink by day, are now nearly white, glowing faintly in the cool silver of moonlight. Tiny shadows fall between the leaves, delicate and lace-like. She pauses, lowering the lantern, and notices something even more beautiful. The moonlight alone, without the lantern's glow, the blossoms appear subtler, quieter, but still luminous. She realizes that sometimes beauty is brightest when it is left unlit, when it rests in its own natural glow. She bows her head slightly, as though in gratitude to the blossoms for teaching her this. She continues her wandering, moving to the alcove of herbs. By lantern light, their leaves gleam with droplets of dew. Each herb has its own shade of green, rosemary dark and sharp, mint fresh, and bright thyme muted and gray-green. She leans close, noticing how even the tiniest veins are visible in the lantern's glow. The detail astonishes her. The way each leaf holds its own intricate design, unique yet harmonious with the rest. She thinks of how sight allows her to honor these details. How often one might pass quickly, missing the subtle beauty hidden in plain leaves. Here in the quiet of midnight, she can see them as they are delicate works of art, shaped slowly by nature's hand. She walks toward the pebble circle and lowers her lantern. The stones gleam faintly, some pale, some dark, each reflecting light in its own way. She picks one up and studies it closely. In the lantern's glow, tiny specks shimmer inside it, minerals catching firelight like stars trapped in stone. She turns it slowly, marveling at how different it looks with each angle. She places it back down carefully, grateful for the glimpse of eternity contained in something so small. The garden now feels like a gallery of light. Lanterns painting gold, moon washing silver, dew scattering stars. Each surface, each petal, each ripple of water becomes part of the art. Mara walks slowly through it all, lantern swaying eyes, wide and soft heart calm. At last, she returns to the wooden bench. She sets her lantern down at her feet and leans back. She gazes upward, allowing the moon and stars to be her final sight. Their light is steady, eternal, a reminder that she is part of something vast and timeless. Her eyes grow heavier, though she does not resist. She lets them close halfway, still glimpsing the silver glow above. She whispers softly, "Every light is gentle. Every light is enough." The words settle into the garden, and she allows her eyes to close fully, trusting that even in darkness, beauty remains. The midnight garden is now at its most quiet, wrapped in a hush so tender, it feels as though time itself has paused. Mara sits on the wooden bench, her lantern glowing at her feet, the fountain murmuring nearby. She lets her body sink more deeply into the bench, as if it is cradling her. Her breath is steady, her eyes heavy. She knows her rituals are almost complete, and the night is inviting her to rest. She lifts her head once more, gazing at the moon. Its silver light falls over the garden in long beams, painting every leaf and petal with a final shimmer. The lanterns add their golden glow, gentle companions that keep watch alongside the moon. It is as though the whole garden has gathered to stand sentinel through her sleep. Mara reflects softly on the night she has lived here. She remembers the feel of dew beneath her toes, the cool cushion of moss beneath her hands, the warmth of tea in her palms. She recalls the fragrance of lavender and jasmine drifting around her, the taste of honey and figs and apricots, the chorus of crickets and whispering grasses. Each sense has been a gift, each moment a reminder that peace can be found in small, steady rituals. She smiles, faintly, eyes half closed, as gratitude wells in her chest. Gratitude for this garden, gratitude for the night, gratitude for the simple truth that enough has always been here. A faint breeze stirs, carrying the scents of mint and rose. Mara draws it in with a long, deep breath. The cool air fills her lungs, carrying with it all the softness of the garden. She exhales slowly, releasing any lingering tension. She feels as though the breeze itself is wrapping her in an invisible blanket, warm yet weightless. Her hands rest loosely in her lap. She runs her fingertips against her palms, recalling the textures she touched tonight. The ropes of the hammock, the round pebbles, the soft moss, the silken petals. Even without touching them again, the memory of those textures lingers like echoes in her body. She realizes that memory itself is a kind of touch, a way of carrying comfort, even when the objects themselves are out of reach. The fountain continues its lullaby, steady and constant. Mara turns her ear toward it, eyes closed. She listens until its trickle becomes part of her breath, until she cannot tell where one rhythm ends and the other begins. The sound soothes her, drawing her further inward, deeper into quiet. The crickets still sing in the background, though their chorus seems softer now, as though even they are preparing for sleep. The grasses sway faintly, whispering like distant voices, telling her rest, rest, rest. The owl calls one last time, low and gentle, then falls silent. Mara leans back, her head resting fully against the bench. Her eyes close completely now. She does not need sight. The memory of lanterns and stars glows still inside her. She drifts into a softer space where light is no longer outside her, but within her. She whispers into the night, her voice little more than a sea. I am safe. I am enough. And I am at rest. The words dissolve into the air, joining the fragrance of lavender, the shimmer of dew, the song of water. They become part of the garden itself, carried gently through the night. Her body grows heavier limbs, softening as if melting into the bench. She feels the wood beneath her as steady and strong, a safe place to rest. She draws the memory of the hammock's sway into her mind, imagining that the bench itself is moving with her breath, rocking her gently, endlessly. Each inhale becomes lighter. Each exhale becomes longer. The pauses between them stretch like spaces opening wider to hold her. Time loosens further until there is no hour, no minute, only rest. The garden keeps its vigil. The lanterns burn softly, steady flames glowing like watchful eyes. The fountain flows its lullaby unbroken. The moon continues its journey, spilling silver across leaves and stone. All is as it should be. Nothing needs to change. Nothing needs to be done. If dreams arrive, they will be gentle dreams, born of moss and dew, honey and lantern light. Dreams shaped by gratitude and slowness, carrying her deeper into the sanctuary of sleep. And if Mara could be heard now, her final reflections would be simple truths, like affirmations carried on the night air. Around me, only calm remains. Within me, peace is waiting. The garden holds me, and I am safe. I am enough, and I am already home. At last, her breath settles into perfect rhythm with the garden. Inhale, exhale. Fountain trickle, fountain trickle. Her body is completely at ease. Her thoughts dissolve into the silence. She is no longer awake, no longer watching, only resting, carried in the arms of the midnight garden. The lanterns will keep burning. The moon will keep shining. The garden will keep whispering. And Mara, dear friend, will sleep.